Hello, back at it again with another Richmond Plays Games. I am Richmond, and we are playing Stationeers. Let's jump right into it. Loading up our game, I did do a little bit of work after I signed off last time. Did a little bit of mining to spare you all the tedium of going through and picking a bunch of ores. I mined out all that gold that was just sitting there next to our base. And then over here, I extended the working platform a little ways. I built some lockers at the autolathe. I will show you kind of what that looks like there on the autolathe. There is the kit locker, and it is 10 iron to build a kit of lockers. These are doubles. When you go to construct a locker out of your inventory, there are two construction options, a small and a large. The small requires one locker kit and has only 5 slots, whereas the large has a whopping 30 slots and takes 2 kits. So this is 40 iron investment total, but it will allow me to store up to 60 stacks of ore, or whatever else I want to store in there. But this is a good place to store our ore as we make rhymes. I also came over here on our solar panel setup, and I added 2 more solar panels in, and then I replaced it with heavy cabling because, as I suspected, trying to turn on the solid fuel generator resulted in some of the wires burning out. So I switched over our power head end to heavy cables. The heavy cables can go up to somewhere, I believe, in the neighborhood of 100,000 watts, whereas the regular cables, these ones over here on the other side, are only 5,000 watts. We have our battery all the way up to full now since we were able to pump out a bit more juice out of the solid fuel generator to top that up. And then we used that power, got the battery charger going here, got the small batteries that were extra in the Moonlander, and we got them set up in there. And since we've got plenty of power to spare, we are busy smelting away, getting all sorts of minerals and such. So what we want to do on this episode is, first off, we're going to build a hydraulic pipe bender. We got a couple of reasons why we need to do that. The first reason is I got an alert last time, and that was that I had this one over here right underneath my character portrait in the top right is for a filter being low. And one of my CO2 filters in my suit went down to 0%. I still have 3 total slots, 2 more. One of them is down to 81% already. So we want to get a new filter to replace that. Where we will get that is the hydraulic pipe bender. It is another one of these manufacturing benches like the electronics printer and the autolathe. So we'll go ahead and pick up all that gold like that. And we will start printing the hydraulic pipe bender. This will take a second because most of these workbenches, the furnace, things like that, do take a while to build. So we'll go ahead and get some more of that going. While that is going, we'll come over here and show y'all a little trick. There's the tracking beacon in the lander. So this tracking beacon is a portable tracking beacon. There is a version that can be printed out from the electronic printer right there, and it does require an advanced alloy solder, which is smelted from a combination of iron and lead. Yes, we use lead-based solder in the Stationeers world because who needs to be safe? But that beacon right there is a permanently wired beacon that will go into your power grid. It draws pretty hefty amount of power when it's on, 300 watts per tick. Oh, and then I think I had mentioned last time of a tick rate in this game. It is, from what I can gather, every half second is a tick in this. Most of the time for like power, it won't become a huge deal because as you consume power, you will be generating it. Any references to power consumed, it is per tick and power generated is per tick. So if you get out your network analyzer and say you're generating 2,500 watts and you have a load of 1,300 watts, that is both per tick. So it allows you to just look at the numbers themselves without having to concern yourself about matching up units. So this is the portable tracking beacon. And the way this one works is you just use Q to drop it. You can pick it up and put it back into your hand or in your inventory. But when you drop it out into the world, it has a small battery on top to power it. It does go through that fairly quickly, so you don't want to be away from your base for too long. And I believe we still have the tracker cartridge in our tablet. We do. So when we do this, when we turn on the tracker tablet, that is my Steam name there. This can actually allow you to track other players, but if you use the mouse wheel to scroll up, you can turn on your tracking beacon and voila, it will tell you what direction and distance your tracking beacon is. If you have a permanently installed tracker, or a permanently installed beacon, I should say, you will not have to worry about the battery on top running out and thereby turning off and making it so you have no way of getting back to your base. This way, you can kind of go out on extended operations for mining, particularly at night, without having to worry so much about not being able to get back to your base. Ooh, we should probably stop that. We don't want to build 2 hydraulic pipe benders. We'll go ahead and swap that in our battery charger, put a fresh battery in there. We're not going to leave it on because that'll just drain our battery for no gain whatsoever. And we will start up our hydraulic pipe bender. We'll go ahead and put that hydraulic pipe bender, we'll go back to back with our electronics printer. Why not? There's really not much harm in it. We really won't have any issues with things spitting out into each other that way. We will get out some iron sheets. It wants the welding torch first with those iron sheets. Then it wants cable coil. And finally, it wants a welding torch with plastic sheets, which I believe all our plastic sheets are currently in the lander. If you ever run out of plastic sheets, you can craft more at the auto lathe. It will require silicon, which I believe that is right there. Silicon can be smelted in the furnace just like iron. We can use those plastic sheets along with our welding torch to continue constructing the hydraulic pipe bender, finish it up with a screwdriver, and it is ready for power. Let's get that back in there. The hydraulic pipe bender is, as you might glean from the name, mostly to do with pipe. There are lots of things that you need pipe for in Stationeers, and in addition to pipe, it is where you can build filters. You can also use the fabricator, which is different than the auto lathe, in order to build filters. But the hydraulic pipe bender is much easier to work with. We don't have any resources in there right now. Good thing we've got this iron here. We'll go ahead and load all this up here in our hydraulic pipe bender. We will go through a lot of iron in our hydraulic pipe bender. We'll also smelt some more copper, which we'll need. So, in order to address this problem of the empty filter in our suit, we will go to our recipe list, go all the way down to the bottom where the filters are, and we'll get a carbon dioxide filter. You can also get heavy filters which last longer, medium filters which last in between them, and there are some tools that you can build in here. But for now, CO2 filter, 5 grams of iron for that. And boom, there it is. CO2 filter. So we can put it in our hand, we can swap it into our suit, and what do we do with the 0% filter? Well, there are a couple things we can do with it. We could build a recycler. which would allow us to recycle a manufactured item into its base components. And I believe you receive like 20% of what you had gone into it, which would be 1 iron. But is that really worth it? I don't know. Sometimes, and this is a very human thing to do, I'll just take trash like this and toss it in a hole. Out of sight, out of mind. All right. I'm going to take a short break real quick and come right back. All right. I had to grab a little something to drink there. Getting a little frog in my throat. And we're back. So we've got our filter situation taken care of for now. Let's go ahead and switch that 76% filter over to the slot that will get used first on the left side. Then on the hydraulic pipe bender, the next thing that we're going to build is an active vent. This requires gold and copper in addition to the iron that we placed inside our hydraulic pipe bender. We've got our copper there, and we'll need a little bit of gold as the stuff that the hydraulic pipe bender spits out. A lot of times will have electronic components to it. And pretty much as a general rule in Stationeers, anything that has electronic components will require some amount of gold as part of its processing. We will have our gold going. I believe gold per gram of gold is 6 world ticks, which is 3 seconds each. So it does take a while to smelt gold. We'll go ahead and let it finish that one that it was doing. And we'll just grab this 4 grams of gold that we've already got, which will be enough, I believe, to get our, yeah, we only need 1 gram of gold to get the active vent. So we've got our active vent. The active vent is different than the passive vent in that both of them can vent gases out of pipes, but one of them will use power to either suck in or force out. In addition to our active vent, we're going to need some pipe. We'll go ahead and put out, I don't know, we'll just grab 5 for right now. There is some pipe in your starting supplies. It is a critical part of building an airlock system for a base. The pipe should be right there. There's some of that. There's 1 stack of 20. But we'll build some more so we don't have to tap into that. Let's get back in the habit of turning things off when they're not in use. So coming over here to our furnace. As you can see, our furnace is still very hot and has a high pressure. This is kind of a bad thing because any additional fuel that we put into the furnace now, if we were to put in more volatiles ice or oxide ice, would simply get lost in the mixture. It would evaporate. And we wouldn't really be able to combust it because of the high concentration of CO2 and pollutants waste that will be left over in the furnace as a result of our burning of the fuel and our smelting of the steel. All metals will give off a certain amount of gas byproduct when they are smelted, in addition to the CO2 pollutants byproduct of the ignition itself of the H2 and O2. So we need to get rid of that. The top part right here is our furnace output. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a corner there, and we're going to corner down. We don't want to block any potential for inputting the furnace, even though on this one I doubt that we will do anything with it as far as the input goes. This will purely be one that we use ice for, unless we decide to change our minds on that and actually set up a gas-based input. So we've got our active vent there. Voila. And I might actually go ahead and just use this other piece of pipe I've got. I will put it over this way, and we'll go ahead and say, yeah, the active vent there. Then we will get some power going into it because an active vent does need to be powered. It is not capable of inherently creating vacuum or forcing air out of it. So we have got an active vent. We can turn it on. Right now, we can set it inward or outward. Keep in mind that whatever button you press, that's what it will change it to. So right now it is set to go outward. If we were to press it, it would change it to set inward. So as you can see here, we've got a temperature of 233 megapascals, or sorry, a pressure of 2.33 megapascals, and a temperature of 367 Kelvin in there. We want to vent all the gas inside there out. And I can even go get our Atmo Analyzer cartridge for our tablet so you can see what we're dealing with here. Atmos Analyzer card. And we'll get out our tablet. We'll open it up with the R button and we will swap the Atmos Analyzer card in there in exchange for the tracker card. This way, when we turn our tablet on, it can allow us to examine the atmosphere. Obviously right now there is vacuum, so it's not going to have any pressure or temperature, but we come over here to the furnace and we have got 60% of our gas mixture in there is X, which is pollutants. We've got 39% CO2 and less than 1% each of N2, O2, and H2. Just some unignited, unburned remnants of the original fuel that we had placed in our furnace. But we want to see that out. So let's go ahead and turn on our active vent. Maybe I did set that. Set outward, set. There we go. That is set outward. So it is currently shooting out pressure out of the output pipe, going out into the vacuum space. And it very rapidly will take our pressure down to zero. And as we take our pressure down to zero, it'll take our temperature down to zero. Our temperature down to zero, actually, we don't necessarily care all that much about. It's really the pressure going down that we want. The temperature will follow the pressure. Okay, that is done. We can turn the active vent off and our furnace is back down to 0 pascals, 0 degrees Kelvin. Voila. I could go ahead and try and put some ice back in there, but I am in direct sunlight right now. So unfortunately, if I were to put a chunk of ice, either volatiles or oxide in it, it would sublimate right out of my hands and I could put an entire stack in there, but I would just be continually losing ice from my full stack. It'd be very difficult to put a single ice in there as long as I'm in direct sunlight. So you can do one of two things. You can either wait until nighttime, which it's about to be, or you can go ahead and build a shelter around it. And in fact, we don't even need to construct any additional supplies. We've got some wall kits in our construction supplies. There we go, iron wall. We'll just come right on over here. We will build our iron wall, which isn't much to look at, but it is something that will at least keep the sunlight off of our furnace. And what we can do is we can even build it up on the top up there. Let's see here. There we go. Now, once we place the basic frame of those walls, in order to finish them off, like most things in Stationeers, we need to use additional resources in order to construct them. In this case, you don't need any other tool. You just need to have some iron sheets in your hand. I will go ahead and craft a couple more iron sheets at the auto lathe. And I realize that it's not a comprehensive shelter. It's not going to shield anything from the front here. It's just going to get us a little bit of shade so that, let's say we're in the back half of the day and the sun's over there, we can just stand right here in our little overhang out of direct sunlight and we can put some ice into our furnace without being interrupted by the problem of having ice just evaporating / sublimating / melting right out of our hands. So we are going to go ahead and now make some more steel. So the first step is to get our fuel mixture in there. We need 2 volatiles, and we need 1 oxide, a 2-to-1 ratio of H2 to O2. So load 2 volatiles in, press the activate button twice to melt both of them, load the oxide in, load it, and we have ignition. We'll go ahead and put our iron in there. And as we recall from our last episode, it is a 3-to-1 ratio of iron to coal in the smelting of steel. And we will see it load up. As long as our temperature is above 600 degrees Kelvin, then we can smelt steel out of our furnace. There we are. We've got more steel. We'll go ahead and put it right over here next to our big old stack of gold. Go ahead and get that copper in there. Can never have too much copper. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make some electrum, or maybe some solder, one of the two. Let's go ahead and let's do solder. Because I think I've got some lead. I do. I've got some lead. I've got some iron. The formula for solder is a 1-to-1 ratio of iron to lead. Now, solder has a slightly different range of temperature and pressure than steel does. We're actually going to go ahead and vacate all the gas in there, I think, because, well, actually we might not. So solder is a pressure range of anywhere between 300 pascals up to 3,500 kPa / 3.5 MPa. So our pressure is actually right there in the range. And then it is anywhere between 300 and 2,000 degrees Kelvin. So we might actually be good on the furnace if we go ahead and throw our iron and throw our lead into our furnace, because solder is smelted at a lower temperature. Boom, there we go. We've got a block of solder, and that is good because when we come over here to our area or our electronics printer, if we want to print out another area power controller, it is under kit power controller, I believe. There it is. We actually need 3 grams of solder. So we'll go ahead and drop that whole stack of solder into our electronics printer, and that will give us a wider array of manufacturing options there. Then we'll go ahead and do what we actually have the resources for, which is electrum. We do not have any nickel currently. Nickel is a pretty hard to come by metal in Stationeers, but it is necessary for crafting Invar and Constantin, and I think that is the only ones. I don't think that there's a gold nickel alloy, but I do not remember for sure. Invar is a hotter smelting required, which we're not doing. We're not doing Invar. We are doing electrum. Electrum is, and I'm using a cheat sheet here, referencing the information that I already acquired. The electrum pressure range is anywhere between 800 pascals and 2.4 megapascals. So we are in our pressure range. However, our temperature range needs to be somewhere between 700 and 10,000 degrees Kelvin, which we are already below, and adding these ores to it would depress even further. So we definitely do not have the temperature we need in order to smelt any electrum. So we're going to go ahead and vacate that. Let's just empty out that furnace chamber, and we will get some more fuel. Now, I think that if we do double the previous ratio of hydrogen to oxygen, that'll get us to the temperature we need. The easiest thing to do is actually to have gas, mixture going into it. There's really nice cheat sheets about exactly what pressure of a 66% hydrogen, 34%. I mean, technically, the exact numbers you would want would be 33.3% and 66.6%, but you could do a 66 to 34 or a 67 to 33% mix. It doesn't really matter. You'll be close enough that you won't have any real loss in efficiency, but you can actually mix those gases and input them into the furnace. And for example, if you get up to 160 kPa of fuel mixture in your furnace and then use the activate button to ignite it, that will put you right at the perfect window for smelting electrum. But we're going to go ahead and give this strategy a try of doing double what we did before on ice volatiles. We kind of lost one of it. It might have fallen. Did it fall? Yes, it did. It fell into the furnace. So there's our volatiles. Then we're going to get 2 oxides. And as we put the 4 volatiles in there, we'll have to activate 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Then we will put in 1, 2, and we have got 8.1 K Kelvin. It is quickly dropping, but it looks like we are inside of our window. Yep, as long as we're below 2.4 megapascals, we can smelt the electrum. So we might actually need to lower the pressure a bit. The temperature, as long as it's above 700 degrees Kelvin, will work. So I'm actually going to vacate a little bit of gas until I can get my pressure down below 2.5 megapascals. But we don't want to get it too low because we still want to have our temperature above 700 degrees Kelvin. So we are just below 2.4 megapascals. So we should, boom, ignite electrum. That simple. And look at that beautiful gold color that it's putting out. That is electrum. And we'll just go ahead and actually, we won't quite get rid of that yet because that is still plenty hot to save some time on the smelting of gold. That arc furnace can take a while to smelt gold. It is 1 individual gram of gold per 3 seconds. So an entire stack takes 150 seconds, which I don't have 2.5 minutes always to wait around just waiting for gold to smelt. So we'll pop a couple stacks of gold into there. We've still got our temperature high enough. It's telling us right there we've got enough. There we go, 100 grams of gold smelted just that fast. We can come over here and do the same thing with some of this copper, which we don't have much left. We actually will go ahead and leave that there for now in case we come across some nickel. We can smelt it with the copper to get some Constantin. So we'll just go ahead and grab another 100 grams of gold. We are currently sitting on 670 degrees Kelvin, which should be plenty to smelt the gold. Yeah, it's telling us right there that it is good to smelt gold. And this way we can just save ourselves a whole bunch of time. Oh, look at that. We dropped below the minimum temperature, which I think might just be 600 degrees Kelvin. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll close that mold back up. And can we do them one at a time now, or have we missed our window? We have missed our window. Look at that. We waited too long. We lost just enough temperature, and we missed our window. That's okay. That is okay, because what we can do is we can just vent out all of that waste gas out of the furnace that would prevent us from getting a nice solid combustion of H2 and O2. And we can load more fuel right back up in the furnace, and we can smelt that gold in there. In this way, you can save yourself not only a bunch of power, because the arc furnace does use more power to smelt gold than it does to smelt iron, because it is, I believe, at a higher temperature, not to mention being on for a longer period of time. It will draw power from your battery at a faster rate, which we can preserve by smelting it in here. So we'll turn the active vent off. We are, looks like, out of direct sunlight, so we might just be able to get away with moving some, let's say, move some oxide. Oh, nope, we are in direct sunlight, more or less. We can't see it directly, but the sun is right there. It's probably shining on our hands because this game does simulate real-world physics, and in fact, you can kind of see that there is not a lot of shadow in there. After we wait for that to go up, we should be good to get fuel directly out of our backpack into our hands without worrying about it melting. I'm sorry, sublimating. I know that there are some people for whom that is a serious pet peeve. As far as Electrum goes, I don't remember exactly what we use Electrum for off the top of my head. I'm sure spaceship parts probably use Electrum, and I'm sure that there are other things that use Electrum too. I do know that one of the things that we definitely want to get as soon as possible is not in the electronics printer, in the hydraulic pipe bender. If we go under the kits, the pipe analyzer, right here, pipe analyzer, that requires Electrum. So that is what we want that for, because having pipe analyzers allows you to hook up a pipe analyzer to the circuit board. Let's see here, the circuit board gas display. Gas displays can only display the temperature or pressure of canisters or tanks or pipes that have a pipe analyzer hooked up to them. If you want to, you can actually get a temperature and pressure reading out of a furnace. However, that is not actually able to display directly on a gas display circuit board, which is, I feel like, kind of silly, and maybe has been changed since the last time I tried it. But you actually have to use a graph display right there in order to display the temperature or pressure directly out of a furnace onto a monitor. I'm sure that there are other ways of doing it, but that is the one that I have done before and has worked. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because this is when you want to set up a automated, I say automated, but a system where you can just walk over to and just push a button right next to your furnace. It'll start filling with your H2O2 fuel mixture, and when you have a little digital readout that says what the current pressure is inside your furnace, you can just stop filling it, you can ignite it and smelt whatever you want to, and then push a button to empty out your furnace, recycling any of the gases that are inside of there. Those are the kind of the later stage things that we are going for. But for now, let's see if we got ourselves into a position. Nope. Are we still having it sublimate out of our hands? That's kind of strange. Maybe it's because we did not... Maybe it's because we've got open floors below us. Because I'm pretty sure that as long as we're out of direct sunlight like this, we shouldn't have the ice being lost. Let's try it now. It's still going. Strange. I might need to make this an airtight room. Not sure. I'm sure that there is something that I'm missing here, but regardless, we have got our furnace set up that we can use an active vent to empty out to allow for quick and easy smelting, particularly at night. We have been able to smelt more gold more quickly than our arc furnace would let us do in pretty much the entire time that we'd be sitting here playing. Finally, we have managed to put together a stack of Electrum, which is over in my locker currently, but that I will put into my hydraulic pipe bender in order to allow me to do fun things like create pipe analyzers and other things as well. In between this and our next episode, I probably will go out on a mining excursion, turning on my tracking beacon to give me a good reference back to my home base. And I will use that to go out into the world, onto the moon, and find some nickel that we can smelt with some iron in order to make some Invar, as well as some Constantin by smelting copper with nickel. And that is all I've got time for today. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.